I have been thinking a lot the last few months on different styles of business models for pet photographers. I want to say business model, business style for pet photographers. And I've been thinking about this so much because I wanted to give you some options on how you can run your pet photography business. But when I Googled business model for pet photographers, it only came up with one answer. I'm going to talk about that answer in this video, but I really want to give you some real world examples of different ways that you can consider running your pet photography business. Whether you want to call it a model or a style, essentially the description that I have come up with is what you offer and how you offer it. I'm going to give you some real world examples, some ideas I've seen outside of pet photography, other styles of photography that I couldn't find examples for, so this could be a niche for you. But while we do that, I really need to kind of clean up the studio a little bit, put away lights and the backdrop that I have up to get ready for the next session. Are you excited? I have some cool ideas. So when I was looking it up, the only thing I could find was IPS versus shoot and burn. All right, this has been debated forever. In-person sales versus only offering digitals. That's the only reference I could find to pet photography business models. Where's the thing for this? Which is clearly too limited. We are not just digital only or in-person sales. That's not all that we do, but that's all I could find for different business models. Oh my gosh, I got this new softbox. It's ginormous. And I don't remember the quick release for this. How do I? Oh, I know how it's done. It's gonna be so loud though. So that is the first thing I could find. If you do a Google search for pet photography business model, that's the articles you're going to find in the references. In-person sales versus shoot and burn. But I want to go beyond that, okay? I think that's kind of an old conversation. We get it. But it is actually a legitimate, both ways are legitimate, okay? So I want you to know that first of all. Oh, I told you that'd be loud. And then take this. There's an inner one. And then you push this button. Oh my gosh. I have a bag for that somewhere. Okay, so the second thing I want to talk to you about is those are two legitimate styles of pet photography, two different models. You can have a shoot and burn model if you want to. You have permission. If you want to have shoot and burn, you want to photograph pets and you want to give them a digital copy, go for it. Run your numbers. That's the reason why people say, oh, but the other model is IPS, in-person sales, which is when you're selling things like the canvas prints that are behind the backdrop, behind the curtain. So the idea is that you will make more money the more products you have on offer, which is printed products, right? So people in their mind a lot of times only value digital prints or digital images this much, whereas if you offer albums and canvases and all kinds of things that they don't have readily access to, pro level things, you're going to have more higher sales because you can offer them more. But I'm here to tell you, you can do digital, you can do in-person sales, whichever way works for you that covers your expenses and gives you money to live. You can do that. All right, a little bit along those same lines is high volume versus custom commission portraits. So there's a lot of studios that do either way. So you can do a high volume model where you do a lot more sessions in like a day. But you maybe set the boundaries on that. It's gonna be at this location, or it's gonna be on the studio, it's gonna be just a few pictures, it's shorter, whatever it is for your boundaries, for your high volume. Or you can do custom boutique commission style, which is what I do, where it's a longer process, but a higher payoff. So it kind of depends on what you want. I love to have that really personal experience with my clients and give them exactly what they want and it be custom, this whole experience. So I like the commission boutique model. This is gonna be loud too. Oh my gosh, okay. I love this. So there's nothing wrong with those. Those are definitely choices that you can make. You can do high volume, you can do commission boutique. All right, those are some other business models. Those are kind of the classics. All right, so those are some of the ways that we typically think of business models for pet photography. One thing I want you to kind of consider is your style versus your business model. Those can be different, they can be combined. But often we say we're, maybe a natural light portrait photographer or a studio portrait photographer. And that can be your style, but it may not be your business model. So it's up to you. You can say that as you're like, I'm going to be a studio only photographer, that kind of thing. And I'm gonna have an example for you that's very specific about not only what they do, but what they offer. So I want to go through some photographers that I know of that I was able to find, and we'll give you some examples. But consider that sometimes your business model is not what you shoot specifically, or like your style. It's kind of what you deliver and what you shoot. Does that make sense? I hope it makes sense. So I do want to give you a couple of actual examples of what I'm talking about. This is a huge backdrop, my goodness. You've probably seen a couple of interviews I've done on this channel, and the first one was Arika Dorf, and she travels around in her van during the fall to photograph clients, just in the fall, all the way around the United States. That is actually her full business model. She van lifes, she takes your picture on location in the fall. All of her work she does fourth quarter. A little bit of the third quarter. That's it. That is her actual business model. Now what she delivers is things like canvases and prints and things. So what she's actually delivering isn't a lot different than my studio. But it's how she runs the whole thing. So consider this. If you were to say, this is Arika Dorf, she's the traveling pet photographer. See? So when you start thinking about your business model, it can be, how do you want to be introduced? All right, this is also loud. Oh, I got some new light stands. They have some really much better connector, little knobs here. The other one was terrible, never tightened. Oof. All right. Another example I have that you've probably seen is my most recent interview. That was with Ryan of Fetch Photo Truck. What he has is a trailer that he's outfitted to be his traveling studio. It's a fine art traveling studio. Oh my gosh, watch that video. It's super cool. He said it's kind of like having a little tiny home that they can come in, very homey. That is definitely a deliberate business model. He's the guy with the truck that comes to your house to take your fine art dog photos. That is a very unique pet photography business model, wouldn't you say? Doesn't come up in Google searches, but you're welcome. As far as he knows, he might be the only one in the US. So if that's something you're considering, be sure to watch that video too. All right, another one that I found on Instagram is a photographer who does pup and me sessions. And what's interesting is that it's what she does and what she delivers. So you've probably seen her around, I can't remember the name of the studio right now, but I'll put it on the screen. And she does all of her sessions include the person. So the pup and their person, and they all get an album. So her business model is set up where everybody already knows what they're buying. So they know they're going to be pictures of them and their dogs, and they're getting an album. Now they can, I think, order beyond that, but isn't that a cool business model? I don't know anybody else who does that, but I love that idea. You have this whole story, this whole book of you and your pets at the end. Another one is more in the name, I think, than what they actually, like they're a custom studio too. You've heard of her, Kim Hartz. She does tons of pet photographer education, especially through PPA. And Last time I saw her talk, which has probably been 3 or 4 years ago now, her thing was babies and fur babies. So in her studio, she photographs human babies and dogs, and she's got it all set up for both, which I think is kind of interesting. I don't know, and I think at the time she said she didn't often put them all together. Like, it's not always dogs with their babies or babies with their dogs, but that was her specialty. She has little kids herself and dogs, and it kind of worked for her. She wanted to be able to work with both of them. So her tagline and what she's known as is babies and fur babies. Oh, hey, there's more clamps. I found them. And another model that I know of is in Australia, and they've changed owners since I knew about this studio. But years ago, my business coach also coached this studio in Australia, Zoo Studio. And what they ended up being really known for was high key and low key, so really dark, really light, black or white backgrounds, printed on metal. So when you went to their studio, you knew you were going to get high key or low key images, and you were going to get metal prints. I thought that was really interesting. So that's what they do and what they offer. And actually, last I heard, they were very successful and retired and sold their studio. So that's interesting. So Zoo Studio, if you watch, hello. This bag has seen better days. I gotta take this home and wash it. Another distinct style is Richie Schwartz, and he is very prop heavy pet photographer. He has a popular Facebook group, and he's been on a bunch of podcasts and things too. A lot of these people I'm talking about are also educators for pet photography, so look up Richie Schwartz. His whole business model is high volume and prop heavy, and he goes to locations like pet supply stores. Nope, maybe that's not going to fit. All right, that's good enough. So Richie Schwartz, look him up, because I heard him on the Lucy Dumas podcast, and he talked about how it got so big that he's not franchised, but he's got staff all over the country running very similar models in their cities at their big pet supply stores. So there's another photographer I searched for and found recently when I was just looking at his website. He doesn't do private commission portraits anymore, but he used to. And his name is Jesse Friedman, and he was all about black and white dog photography. Beautiful work. I believe he does commercial work as well, but he was doing private commission portraits. So his style was this very, I don't even know how to say it, almost like candid, I guess maybe more, I think he did like more candid black and white dog photography. Got to be pretty famous. I don't know how I never heard about him until just now. But that was a very distinct business model for him. Okay. Oh, I broke a nail, no. So those are photographers, pet photographers I could find that I felt had really a unique business model. So some of those had business styles, some had business models, some had both of them together. Their style and their model worked hand in hand. Doesn't always though. Like in the case of Arica, she has custom portraiture and you can order the standard things, but she goes on the road trip. So those are some ideas of people that I found, but here are some other ideas that I know people in non-pet photography, like portraiture, children's portraiture, things like that, that have made an entire business model around this. Now, these are models that I haven't seen pet photographers do. So this could be something that really resonates with you. So consider these options. Now, the first one is kind of obvious, commercial photography. So you're not doing private commissions at all. You're not doing custom work. You're doing commercial photography. This could be for stock, or it could be for a custom commercial session for you too. There is the business of commercial photography, and she is really big on educating people who want to get into commercial pet style photography. There's a lot of ins and outs and a lot more like contracts and huge production teams, a lot that goes into that. But there's a really great Facebook group that she teaches you how to manage all that. So if you don't really want to market to all of your local people and do all of this private commission type of thing, you could consider doing commercial pet photography. A slice off of that is also stock photography. Now, this doesn't pay as well unless you're really good at maybe getting a lot of video clips too. Video stock is bigger and bigger, but you could potentially do just stock. So this is where you set up your own photo shoot, your own theme. I've done a video on here about that, and shoot that, and then you upload it to stock sites. HeartSpeak has a stock portfolio that you could upload to. And then as businesses and organizations, individuals want stock images, they go buy them and then you get your commission. Once upon a time, probably 15 years ago, I was able to make a few $100s a month doing stock photography, but there's a lot more people doing it now, so you don't get paid as much. But if you want to do a side gig and do some cool themed, that could be a way to go, especially with video. Oh, another one that people talk to me about sometimes is event. So say an agility trial, dog shows, conformation, horses have specialty shows. You could do all kinds of event photography, and there are plenty of people, that's all they do, is they travel around to these pet events, animal events, and photograph them. Whether they're photographing the action of it all, or they have a booth where they're doing still images. So pet event photography is actually a business model, a way to go. There's one style that I have seen, this was a few years ago now, but there were some family photographers that were doing what they called a day in the life. So they would actually go into the people's homes and just photograph what was happening for the day. And this really worked out for people with little kids. So it was really this freezing this moment in time of them doing normal things. Eating breakfast or playing in their backyard or, snuggling with a book with mom and dad. But there's no reason why you can't do that with dog photography or cat photography. A day in the life could be really interesting, I think, as a pet photographer. Follow them around and do what they do with their dog for an entire day. People have quite the regime. You know this as a pet photographer. They have a regime with their dogs. At this time, we go for a walk. At this time, we eat our kibble. At this time, we have our cool Kong and we make all our treats, the little treats you put in the freezer. I have a bunch of them. There's all kinds of things people do throughout their day, and it would be very cool to have that and probably offer that as an album. So I'm not seeing anyone do that for pet photography, day in the life. It's up for grabs. Another one is purely action. So I know a lot of people do action photography when they're at agility or herding trials, things like that. But you could do a whole bottle where it's just action. Now this could be action/candid. And so a lot of people, photographers do this too, where it's, we're just going to kind of follow you through the park and capture glimpses of you as we go. We're not going to do anything particularly posed. So this is an opportunity for dog photographers to do that as well. And I know a lot of people start out doing that because posing dogs is a whole art unto itself. And so sometimes it's just like follow them around through the park. But I would say go a step further than that. Like maybe you're just going to show the dogs like out on a run or at one of those really big enclosed parks and show what they look like when they're running and playing and being goofy. And so an action action or candid photography is a whole model that you can do too. Another one, and I know I've seen it here in Colorado, I just could not find the example. If I do, I'll put it in the video. It's adventure dog photography. Now, here in Colorado, like I'm looking at the Rocky Mountains out my studio window right now. A lot of people love hiking with their dogs in the mountains and going on adventures and paddle boarding with them and all the adventure things that people can do with their dogs. And there are pet photographers who specialize in that. The ones that I found though, they only make that one portion of their regular, like private commissions studio like I have. But wouldn't it be cool to have a very specific business model? And that's what you do. Adventure dog, adventure cat, a lot of cats do this now too, photography, where you are gonna spend probably a couple hours, go out on a hike, go out on the lake and the paddle boarding and take your camera and really get those cool activities between them and their people, right? So I think adventure dog photography, adventure cat photography would be awesome. It would be so great, especially if you live in a really picturesque area or a place where there's just a lot of things you can do with your dog. Okay, and I've got one more idea now. Years and years ago, when I was looking for pet photography resources here on YouTube, and there wasn't any, I ran across, I want to say, this couple that were doing a celebrity dog photography. I wish I could remember who they were, but they would only photograph dogs of celebrities. So they were going into these people's homes, these really fantastic, magnificent homes with very famous people, and photographing them like by the pool, in their back garden, in their living room, however the people wanted. And that is the clientele that they served. They were the celebrity pet photographer. Isn't that interesting? I don't know if they're still around, but I do remember coming across a YouTube video about them. So that'd be a cool business model, right? If you're in an area with a lot of celebrities and you know them or you have an in, why not? All right, that is what I have for you today. Really consider what business model that you can have for your pet photography business. I think this is pretty exciting. I like to think there's tons of different ways that you can have a successful pet photography business and be different. You know, they always say better isn't better, different is better. Like, how do you want to stand out? How do you want your lifestyle and your style and all of these things to coexist and have it be something that your clientele would love as well? I hope this sparks some other ideas. If you know of other pet photography business models, type it in the comments. I think we'd all love to know. Okay, thanks for helping me clean up the studio today. Hope this was helpful to you. If you have any questions about how you might set up your studio business model, you can always schedule a one-to-one with me. Go to propetphotog.com, and on the front page, there's a way that you can just schedule a Zoom with me. Yeah, and we can talk it all through, all right? So that's it for me today. And as always, I wish you many woofs, purrs, and TREATSs. Where's the lid to these? Aha, here we go. And here. Here we go. Good deal.